So if nature is something that's kind of going on out there, and art is something that goes on in galleries, and meditation is something that we're kind of doing in here, how does nature, art, and meditation go together? Does it fit? So very warm welcome. We're going to be exploring that in due course. So my name's Maitrinara, if you don't know me. I'm a ordained member of the Triratna Buddhist community, and I'm a teacher here in Brixton Buddhist community. So yeah, at Brixton we've been trying to really get the Dharma and get meditation out to reach out to people. We've been doing that for some time now. So if you want to keep tuned in to what we're doing, just press the subscribe button and the alerts, and then you'll keep up to speed with everything that we're doing. Also, do say that you're here and say where you are. So it's really good for me to know who's out there, so I can feel I'm not on my own here in front of the camera. And yeah, so let me know, and I can give some shout outs later. So I'd like to do that. Yeah, and also one other thing is that if you have any questions at all throughout the course of the talk, anything that kind of occurs to you, something that you or even just want to go a little bit more into, or just a comment, something from your own experience, just put it into the chat box, and we'll have a chance to mould that over together towards the end of the stream. Okay, so what we do now on these meditation live streams is we just take a few minutes just to kind of arrive. Yeah, so whatever kind of day we've had, we can just arrive and be a bit more fully present. So I'm going to just lead us through what's called a body awareness or body scan. Okay, so with this, you don't need to do anything special. You don't need to, you don't need to get out. You could just stay in the chair or the sofa where you are. But if you're sitting on the cushions, that's fine as well. Okay, so let's do this little body scan together. So if you're happy to, just closing your eyes. And the first thing is just to notice, well, what is it like now with the eyes closed? Maybe even the first time we've closed our eyes since we woke up this morning. So now we can just have a moment to get a sense of how we are, see how we're doing. And we can do that through just noticing the energy of the body. So just seeing how we're feeling, or whether we're feeling a little bit wide, a little bit buzzy, or maybe already quite relaxed, evening started, quite feeling at ease. So just feeling that in the body. And then broadening out so that we can take in the space all around us, and the sound is coming and going. You can just let that all be there. So then just getting a sense of the weight of the body, and you can feel that particularly where it drops into the ground. So it drops into the ground through all those points of contact, through the backside, through the knees maybe, through the feet. So there's a very particular quality of energy there that we can feel. The sensations that are present there. So being alive to that, being alive to that sense of aliveness, where our body's contacting the ground. And we can start to allow the lower body just to relax into that. So just noticing any holding, any gripping in the legs at all. Just seeing if you can allow that to just soften and start to let go. So it feels like we're becoming more grounded. And then taking a few breaths into the belly, low down into the belly. And start to notice if there's any sense of holding on in the belly. And just bringing your intention to start to soften and to let go of any holding in the belly. And then feeling the energy of the upper body. This mass of sensations around the upper back and shoulders. And again, just see if you're holding on, just see if you're gripping, maybe lifting the shoulders forwards and up. So if you can slightly open the chest and let the shoulders sink backwards. And then letting go any holding in the neck. Up into the head, around the temples and forehead. And then softening around the eyes. Seeing if you can allow your gaze to soften. You may start to notice any tension dropping away from around the mouth. And jaw. And then coming down into connection with the sensations around the chest. The rise and fall of the breath. And again, just softening and looking for ease in the sensations around the chest. And then finally just infusing the whole body with your attention. Connecting with a sense of ease or however you're feeling. And then just letting go any effort at all you're making and sitting relaxed. whether you are in your lounge or in your bedroom. Okay, good. So here we all are now. Let's see who's here. So good to see you, Lynn. And here's Simon, Lucy from the Hartford Sangha. Good to see you. Well, good to have you with us. And there's Jill. Hi, Jill from Gypsy Hill. And Alex B is here from in Clapham Junction. Good to have you with us, Alex. So let's get into this subject for today. Let's get into this area of nature and the arts and their connection with meditation. So we've been talking in this series about the 4 spheres of mindfulness that the Buddha laid out. And as with any system, there's always going to be something that's not quite incorporated. It doesn't map like perfectly over the whole of life, if you see what I mean. So we've looked at the body, we've looked at Vedana, which is the feeling tone of our experience, and we've looked at mind, the way mind mediates everything that happens in our experience. And we'll go on to the 4th and final sphere next week. But what's kind of left out in a way of this schema is our environment, yeah, and that is really primarily consists of this social, physical, and cultural environment, yeah. And we've had a good look at the social aspect, which basically is mostly other people, isn't it? So this sense of other people making up a large part of our kind of environment. And then the physical environment really is much broader than it's often used, this word environment. I'm thinking like everything from the way you've got an unwashed coffee cup on the sideboard, right the way to the way the little birds kind of flitter on the bird stand. The buildings, the cars, the rural landscape, the urban landscape, everything that kind of surrounds us in a way, our physical landscape. And then there's cultural, there's the arts, everything from poetry, music, novels, paintings, this whole kind of broad, rich spectrum that we call that makes up our cultural environment. So we often also hear this word, don't we, caring for the environment. And so caring for our social environment, caring for other people, we've looked at that, haven't we? We've looked at how to be attentive, how to tend to kind of atmospheres, tend to connection, tend to empathy. But caring for this physical environment is more than just not, turning the tap off and turning the light bulb off when it's we're not using it. It also has this sense of a kind of a feeling for it, really noticing our environment that we're in, the sights, the smells, the sounds, and the feel of it. Yeah. So that's an integral part of caring for the physical environment, is getting a feel for it. And then finally, caring for the cultural landscape is noticing. Again, it's attention really. It's noticing that little faded mural on the wall, or I used to live in Archway, and there was a little. I think it was a Banksy. He had a little sign on the side of the street, anywhere. And it would just always catch my attention when I walked past it. A line of poetry that kind of percolates in your mind, or a kind of little line of song that occurs to you when you're doing the washing up. So all these are part of our cultural landscape and are worth tending to. Because if we don't attend to them, why would we care for them? That's a question I would ask. If we don't attend to something, why would we care for it? So, but how often do we attend to what we're kind of seeing, what we're involved with, what's around us? It's the same as when we're kind of talking to somebody. If we don't look at them, if we don't take them in a way, we're just talking to an idea of them. You know, we're kind of talking over their shoulder or talking at their feet. And it's the same when we're just in the park. If we are just walking along and not taking things in, we've just got the kind of ideas of trees around us. Unless we're taking in their actual physicality and their particularity, in a way they just stay at this kind of almost this level of ideas that we kind of know what they are already, so we don't need to attend to them. So I'll just give you a little glimpse into my lockdown world. On a Saturday, Sunday, I go over to a local park here, Tootenbeck Common, and I find there's a secluded bit by the lake, and I just sit under a tree there. And it's interesting. When I first arrived there, I do a bit of qigong, do a bit of exercise, and then I just sit under this tree. And when I first arrive, usually I'm not really taking it in. It's just a kind of a blur to me. I'm just caught in my thoughts. But slowly, during the course of my time spent there, I slowly start to take in the light that filters down through the canopy, that beautiful light green, indescribable, isn't it really, that light green light from that fresh spring foliage, or the way all the bird life just going crazy all the time, you know. So start to take it in, the movement of the trees and so on. Yeah. So it takes kind of time in a way. It takes time and a kind of being there for that to start to kind of emerge, and my thoughts to start to kind of lose their kind of hold on me in a certain way. So I'm going to introduce us to this word vidya. Vidya is a very lovely word in Pali. It basically has a few meanings which I'm going to draw out over the course of this little talk. One of the meanings is analytic appreciative understanding, which sounds a bit of a mouthful. Analytic appreciative understanding, but what it's pointing to is a kind of relishing. That's what it's pointing to, a kind of relishing, a kind of appreciation without acquisition, so without thinking about what I'm going to kind of get out of it, yeah. Which is often our kind of mode that we're in, like what am I going to get out of this, out of this phone call, what am I going to get out of this meeting, you know, what am I going to get, rather than kind of entering into it with a kind of appreciative kind of openness. It's quite difficult to do that, to enter into situations without agenda. So vidya has that quality, yeah. And why is it relevant to nature and art? Well, in a way, they're not useful. In a way, they're not useful. The way the squirrel in our back gardens kind of scuttles along the fence, it's not useful to me. The butterfly kind of flutters its way around the wisteria. It's not useful to me. These things are Rothko painting. When I do get able to get into a gallery and get immersed in a painting, I can sit there for a while, get immersed. There's nothing useful about it. So it has this kind of thing where they kind of exist from their own side, and I need to tune into that. So vidya also has this other quality. It's slightly more kind of mysterious. It's wisdom implicit in true appreciation. Wisdom implicit in true appreciation. And what's being get at there is that this material world is not kind of separate in a way. It's not these discrete blocks of material differentiated from one another. There's a fusion. There's a partaking one to the other. Yeah, there's an interplay, and this is really wisdom at play when you start to see this kind of interpenetration of phenomenon, this kind of interconnection of phenomenon, how things kind of move together. So appreciation from a Buddhist point of view is a kind of, in a way, it's a way of life. It's not something which you reserve for kind of special occasions, special moments. Yeah? It is a kind of way of training oneself in a way. Well, with other people, that's really about kind of in a way seeing through our preferences, isn't it? Starting to see through to the charm of people beyond our kind of preferences. And with nature, it's similar in a way. If I look out of the window in the morning and there's a dark cloud, I'm like, oh gosh, it's going to be a cold day. I don't kind of like it. So I've refused to kind of let that kind of in. Yeah, I just want the sun kind of bouncing off the leaves. Yeah, but if one has an appreciative mode, you can start to see beauty in a storm cloud. So you see beauty in things which aren't traditionally kind of beautiful in a way. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. So one of the real problems with the spiritual life is that we start to get into an idea that we do things because they're good for us. Yeah? And in a way, that's kind of true, isn't it? We meditate, we look after ourselves, look after others. We do that, we look after the planet because it's kind of good for us, it's good for others, good for the planet. And that's all kind of true in a way. But with this in this kind of appreciative mode, we don't kind of differentiate so much. It has a danger, that kind of piousness has a danger of kind of losing touch or losing a feel, losing the joy of the life that we are living. And yeah, and just kind of taking it in. Yeah, just kind of taking it in. You can go for a whole day of doing things that are goodly, but it's kind of taking it in. It's this kind of mode. Yeah. So like, by all means, yes, we do need to plan. No, we do need to plan. We do need to take responsibility. We need to even sometimes push ourselves. But from a Buddhist point of view, there's this idea that there's play involved. There's a lightness. There's play that can be involved there. And that kind of comes from this appreciative life. Yeah, and the consequences of living more like this is that we start to get a little bit less worldly, we start to look for a simpler life. Yeah, there's this line from William Henry Davies' poem. What is life? What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stop and stare. I mean, he's using stare there in a kind of as a rhyme, but what he's getting at is appreciation. If we have what is this life? If full of care, full of worry, full of strain, we have no time to stop and appreciate, to take things in. And I think it's very interesting in this regard what happens on retreat. A lot of you would have been on retreat, will have seen this kind of this regular phenomenon that happens, that people turn up and they're full of care, aren't they? We're full of care when we turn up on retreat. We're kind of tight, full of care, and slowly through a kind of simple program of communal living, talks, meditation, plenty of time to wander around in nature, this kind of sense of being able to stop and stare, to stop and take things in, really starts to permeate the atmosphere. It's almost like, sometimes it almost looks like slightly crazy people kind of just kind of stopping in front of a bush and just standing there, you know. It's just it's this appreciative mode, yeah, and it seems to be bound up in a more spacious a more spacious way of being, yeah, which is kind of really which we really get a feel of on retreat, don't we? So it's not an end in itself, this appreciative mode. It's well, it is an end in itself. Sorry, it is an end in itself. It's not something that we're aiming to get. It has its own rewards. It has its own rewards in the now. It's not a kind of future-based thing. Yeah, and I think as we start to get into it, we start to sensitize, not in a kind of delicate, hothouse flower kind of way. We sensitize to atmospheres, we sensitize to when words are a little harsh or when they're soft and they are loving, and what kind of effect that has. And There's this lovely word in Buddhism, akadampa. It means to tremble alongside. We get this sense that you can kind of tremble alongside, and we get that on retreat, don't we? With the birds, kind of the bird life. You know, you kind of resonate and tremble alongside. Yeah, and it's not just reserved for retreat. You know, you can get it just walking through a real urban environment, seeing a little plant grow out of a crack in the pavement, blooming out of the crack in the pavement. Even just seeing somebody smile at a homeless person, and seeing them smile back, and seeing that little interaction, that cutting across kind of boundaries. We can sensitise to that if we are open to it. I'm going to say a little bit more about nature. So nature is a really good way to counteract this sense, this inclination we often have to look for the lack in things. Yeah, so and to miss what we have. So it has a real balancing factor. But all of this mode that I'm kind of trying to evoke, it doesn't come easily, does it? We can't just kind of wish it into existence, and it doesn't come all at once. So how do we kind of cultivate that? How do we cultivate that in our lives? Well, one of the things is that we need to wean ourselves off high stimulation activities, yeah, easy, quick hit activities, yeah, the phone dings, you know, phone flip, all of that kind of instant Netflix gratification has its place, but if we're tuned in on that kind of frequency, we can find a walk in the park or a visit to the gallery, when we're going to be allowed to do that. Doesn't have that high stimulation, and so it can seem a little staid even. And you see that, don't you, in the park and in the art gallery? People flipping out their phones. Haven't quite made the transition. So it grows out of time and space, and so that is something that we can kind of afford to ourselves in moments, in periods, yeah, and we can start to get glimpses of this resonance with life. I've got a friend, Ian, he might be watching. He had a lovely story the other day. He was saying his daughter has taken to smelling the flowers as they pass, particularly the roses, and she can't pass one without smelling it, and sometimes he has to pick her up, and she has to smell every flower on the bush. And he says he's get kind of annoyed by this because he's on a time frame. But after a while, it starts to build this appreciation of the colour, the fragrance, and the feel of these wonderful flowers that he's passing on the way to the park. So let's move into have a look at art and see where that fits in. So art, well, it also at its best, it's helping us to engage with this appreciative mode. The painter looks, doesn't he? He looks in a way. He's really looked at something and he's tried to render it. He's really tried to look at it from the kind of the glow of skin, like that. How do you get that? He's really had to look at that. He's looked at the colour of shadows. There's a colour in shadows that we can start to appreciate through looking at art that's rendered that. Van Gogh's old boots, he's really looked at those old boots. In fact, he cares about them, and that really comes through. And with a novel, it's the same. We've got this kind of empathetic life. We start to feel for the characters, don't we? They're just words, but somehow we start to build up this feeling for the characters involved. And poetry is another one. So poetry has this essence in words, and I'm going to just read out a poem, and we can maybe use that to help us engage in the meditation later. So this is a poem by Seamus Heaney, and it goes like this: Postscript. And sometime make the time to drive out west into country clear along the flaggy shore, in September, October, when the wind and the light are working off each other. So the ocean on one side is wild with foam and glitter, and inland, among stones, the surface of a slate grey lake is lit by the earth lightning of a flock of swans, their feathers ruffed and ruffling, white on white, their fully grown, headstrong-looking heads tucked or cresting or busy underwater. Useless to think you'll park and capture it more thoroughly. You are neither here nor there, a hurry through which known and strange things pass, as big soft buffetings come at the car sideways and catch the heart off guard and blow it open. So in that poem, yeah, it's really getting this sense of this kind of hinterland where we haven't quite, we're neither here nor there. We're neither engaged in the landscape that we're in front of, but nor are we quite outside it quite yet. So there's this hinterground that we we have to bear with if we want to emerge into this resonance that I've talked about. So finally, we're talking the connection now with meditation. So we've got our life, we've got our family, we've got our work, we've got our loved ones, we've got our diary commitments, and all the tedium and difficulty and kind of satisfactions of that. And then we've got this same world brought alive by attention. Attention to this social, physical, cultural atmospheres and environments that we're moving through all day. Yeah. So this last rendering of vidya is that matter is alive. Yeah. It's sensing that matter is alive and starting to connect that life out there to a life in here. And the mystery of that, the real mystery of that, the vividness of that, so that this wisdom of thinning or attenuation of what's out there and in here starts to happen. We start to feel that connection. Yeah? So I'm going to evoke that now in the meditation, and we'll see if we can touch into that appreciative mode. So let's settle ourselves for a period of meditation. So again, let's just sit quite kind of upright. You can do that in the chair or in the cushion, but you do need to kind of get this sense of quite an energized posture, and then just trying to find a kind of ease with that. So just closing the eyes and just allowing your awareness now to broaden out. And to allow our awareness to broaden out, we get a sense of the space around us, around our body, in the room, or if we're in the garden where we are there, and then way beyond. This sense of vast kind of space. And then just starting to get a sense of the texture of that space. And one of the ways to get a feel for that is the soundscape that's kind of enmeshed, running through this vast space. So getting a sense of the texture of the sounds as they emerge. Getting a kinematic sense of them, a sense of them as alive in our experience, their own qualities. We don't know them. We try to label them, but You can't know them, they're just passing through our experience. Layered on one another, moving around one another. That's happening all around, above and below. And start to question where the sound is happening. Is it really out there? Is it in here? And then we get a sense of ourselves contained in this vast space. Ourselves, our bodies, and we know we have a body because we can feel the sensations of the body. And we can move from the general sense of our body to the particular. To an area of the body. Getting a sense of the granular shape of the sensations. Maybe their colour and hue. If shadows have colour, what colour are these sensations of our body? And they're changing. You notice a constriction there, a sense of ease there. As we breathe, we can feel everything change in the body. So, seeing if you can notice the boundary of your sensations of the body. Where do they start? Where do they end? And if we don't feel in connection, just see if we can stay with that sense of not feeling connection. We can stay in that little hinterground. Taking a curious interest in what emerges as we feel our way into the sensations of the body. You can use the breath to comb through the body. Use the breath to create ease in the body. Whether our experience is pleasurable or not pleasurable, just bringing this appreciative sense to the fact that we can feel our body. This mysterious interplay of sensations. And then getting the sense of your body as energy. Maybe some tingling. That's fine. There may be areas of the body that feel denser. And some that feel much lighter and expansive. So feeling the energy of the body, feeling the body as energy, even our thoughts have their own kinesthetic sense. Some are lighter, some drag, some are heavier, some are curious. noticing, where does our energy end? And where does vast space start? So vast space all around us, with the soundscape woven through. Sensations of the body, almost sculptural. And the energy of the body, the life we can feel. And now for the last couple of moments, we're just going to drop any effort we're making and just stay with whatever's happening just now. And then just return into this sense of groundedness, softening any tension in the body. Coming back to yourself, just sitting here in the chair, on the cushions, on the sofa. In the room that you're in. Engage with the live stream, the community of people watching. Okay, good. So, I'm going to see if anyone else has joined us just while you're coming to from the meditation. And Joe's here from Tulse Hill. Nice to see you, Joe. Or nice to have you with us. If you have any questions at all, put them in the chat box now, or any reflections on any of the talk or the whatever happened in the meditation. You can put that in the chat box. We'll get to that in a moment. But while you're doing that, I'm just going to say a couple of things. So one of the ways that this kind of live stream comes to you is not in an isolated way. It comes as a part of a whole a kind of outpouring of activity from this Buddhist community that we're involved in, or that we're tapping into through the live stream. And that community kind of comes about by people kind of sharing their resources, sharing energy, and sharing their time, but also sharing their money. So we have been asking for to try to raise £2,000 a month in standing orders and one-offs, so that we can keep providing all these things that we're doing, and just keep all the whole community alive with all the things also that go on behind the scenes, which kind of culminates then in something like this live stream. All the study groups, the meetups and so on that happen behind the scenes. So keep all that going. And you might remember this. So this is the old Dana bowl. Do you remember this? This is kind of dusty, like it's not getting any use. It's been in the cupboard. And here is what we've raised. Well, it's what you, through your generosity, have raised. So it's £1,500, £69, £1,569. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, and I want to say a special thanks to a few people that have given recently. So I want to say special thanks to Lynn in Wiltshire. So thanks very much, Lynn, for a new weekly standing order. I want to thank David. I hope you're tuning in, David. I asked you to tune in because I know you're a man of the arts, so I was hoping that you'd be there. But I want to thank you for increasing your monthly standing order, and also Barbara tuning in from Devon, my mum tuning in from Devon. So thanks very much, Mum, for that donation. So all in all, a lot of generosity, and we really appreciate it. This month we're looking for, I think, about £400 or so to kind of bring us up to our full capacity. So if you're interested in giving, if you want to give, if you move to give, the links are down in the description below here and in the chat box. So it doesn't look like there was any questions forthcoming. That's often the way after meditation, isn't it? It takes a little while to kind of gear back up again, and it's quite good not to rush that process. So this is why we've got this Zoom call coming up. We have a Zoom call at 8:45 where this week Andy and Alex B are going to be hosting, and kind of really friendly space to talk about meditation, talk about practice, talk about ideas or anything that's come out of the live stream tonight. And really, if you've not stepped into one of those Zoom meetings, it's a bit like stepping into the Buddhist Center for the first time. It's like, oh, who are these people? What do they want? Is this going to be all right? But we've all of us stepped in at some into that. Well, a lot of us have stepped into that and then felt all the benefit that have come. It's a bit like stepping into that liminal space that I was talking about earlier. So if you're unsure, you could just come along to the Zoom. The links are in the chat box in the description, and just try it out. Try out and see the benefit of really kind of talking about your meditation experience, which vivifies it, really helps bring it to life. So that's a Zoom call at 8:45. Do join us for that. And finally, there's something happening on Saturday, which I wanted to alert you to. It's quite special in a way. We've got Maitrinara, and she's beaming in from Australia. She's beaming in from down under to be with us on Saturday morning. So that's Saturday afternoon in Australia, or Saturday evening almost. And Maitrinara is a very special lady. She's a public preceptor, which means she has a kind of overall responsibility for the order and getting people ordained into this Buddhist order that so many of us belong to throughout the world. and she kind of looks after that in Australia. So she's inspiring, moving around between different groups and centres in Australia and New Zealand, inspiring and helping to answer questions, helping to iron out difficulties in people's practice. And she's a very inspired lady, very committed lady to the Dharma and to meditation. So if you want to hear what a really committed Buddhist from down under has to say, and their take on Buddhism, and their take on what's important right now, we'll just tune in on Saturday morning, and that's at 10:30, and you can find all the details on our channel for that. So that's all we got time for on the live stream. Thanks very much for joining. Thanks for being part of this community, and I wish you all really good evening.